Okay, everybody, so in this video, we're going to build off what we did last time. We have our basic servo in here. This really, I'm going to use it based on this servo, but it really could be, you could import any part and then develop a sketch on top of it. Our goal is ultimately to have a 3D printed part that is going to match the geometry of this. I'm going to show you an example of how to do that, and then you'll have to kind of figure out what works for you. So the very first thing I need to do is I need to click up here where it says create part, studio, and context. So if this is not appearing, you might have to do some drop down menus up here if you're not seeing all these options. If you have, see, mine are all totally exposed. You might have some drop down menus somewhere in here to find it. I've seen that on other students' computers. So we click that button. We need to select a kind of an origin point, like how are we going to, where do you want the sketch to be centered around, kind of is what that means. We're just going to click the origin and hit OK. It's going to open us up in a new tab. This is where we're going to create a part. Rather than assembly as a collection of parts, we're going to create a single part, but it's going to have this little shadow of our context, our existing context. So what we need to do in here is we're going to, actually I'm going to hide these different planes because I think they get in the way for me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sketch. As a reminder, whenever we're doing any kind of CADing, any kind of 3D designing, we're going to start with 2 dimensions and then we're going to add 3-dimensionality to it. So I'm going to click sketch. I'm going to click on the face of this to create my sketch. You can see it creates this kind of rectangular plane in here. And then I can reference this geometry in my drawing. So I'm going to do kind of like maybe what a claw would look like. I'm going to select this. I'm going to select a corner rectangle. Looks like I could just hit G in the future for that. And I'm going to draw a triangle. Maybe it's going to be kind of like a grabber like that. And one thing I find really annoying is this thing seems like it has to stay open, which I really find very annoying. But I haven't yet found a way that I could get rid of that. Let me get rid of these parts. Actually, I don't want this in here. All right, so we're just going to do this. This is kind of like maybe an arm that's going to get attached to my servo. So I'm going to hit finish on my sketch. And so now when I do extrude, I can click Shift E to extrude, or just click that button up there. I'm going to click this part. Okay, and you can see it's now selecting everything outside the rectangle except for the circle. I'm going to go in here and I want to select this geometry. I'm going to select, oh, well, I guess maybe I don't want to be in that middle part. But you can see in here, like if I select this circle, it should include that in the sketch. So we have a hole that goes all the way through there. So for this one, maybe I really want to mount on these two. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different options here. Let's just assume I'm going to mount on these two holes. So I'm going to get rid of that one. I don't want that. I do want to have these two in there. And then I also don't want to make the height so big. I might want to make this like 1.5 or something. And we're going to shrink it down a little bit on here. And so now I have my part. And I can click on here. I should go down here and rename this. I'm going to call this like servo arm. And then we want to go into, now we can insert this into our main assembly. And so that just means we've got to go back to our main assembly, click on here, and then we can do insert, servo arm, and now we have this. And you'll notice it's not married to the servo. It just had that orientation. I feel like I wanted to make this not quite so thick. Let's see if I can go back into here, and let's see if I can edit my extrusion in here. And here, just edit extrude 1. So I can edit this. Yeah, 1.5 maybe it was a little bit too aggressive for me. Let me just say 1 on there. I want it to be even flatter. If I change it here, and go back in here, and it'll also be changed. I can click on these sides. Also, if you don't know, I can click one of these sides. I can look down here and see it's exactly 1 centimeter. So now I have a part, and then I can also export this as a 3D print. To export this as a 3D print, any of these objects, we could actually grab this thing, right click on it, we can hit export. I think we want to export this as an STL file. We can export this, and then you could actually just import that directly into Prusa Slicer, and then we can make it on the 3D printers. You can actually, what's kind of interesting about this, if we select one of these other parts, like say I want to make this little hub thing, I could actually also export this. If I want to make this out of 3D printed filament for some reason, I could also export this as an STL and then have it available to 3D print. So just sometimes that might be interesting, might be useful. Yeah, okay, so I hope that's helpful for you, at least get you started doing some designing within this space.